Welcome back to my channel, where we uncover the most chilling true crime stories that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Some crimes are so terrifying that they haunt entire communities, until justice is finally served. For years, families and investigators are left in the dark, wondering if the truth will ever come to light. But when it does, the revelations are nothing short of shocking. Today, we'll explore 5 horrifying true crime cases that were finally solved, proving that sometimes, persistence and innovation can bring even the darkest secrets into the light. Stick with us until the end, you won't believe the shocking truths that came to light in these cases. Let's dive in. Our first case takes us back to the 1970s and 1980s, a time when California was gripped by fear. A predator was on the loose, committing a series of heinous crimes that spanned over a decade. He was known by many names: the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, and later, the Golden State Killer. His crimes included at least 13 murders, 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries, leaving a trail of terror that stretched across the state. His modus operandi was as chilling as it was methodical. He would stalk his victims for days, learning their routines and studying their homes. Often, he would break into their houses beforehand, leaving behind evidence that only he could understand, a haunting reminder that he had been there. At night, he would strike, tying up his victims, ransacking their homes, and leaving families shattered. Despite the sheer number of crimes, investigators struggled to find him. The technology of the time was limited, and the Golden State Killer was meticulous, leaving behind few clues. He operated across multiple jurisdictions, which complicated efforts to connect the cases. Detectives were left frustrated, as the trail seemed to grow colder with each passing year. But in 2018, over 3 decades after his last known crime, everything changed. Advances in DNA technology had opened new doors, and investigators turned to an unconventional method: genetic genealogy. Using DNA evidence collected from old crime scenes, they uploaded the profile to a public genealogy database. The results were astonishing. They didn't lead directly to the killer but to distant relatives, providing a family tree that investigators painstakingly pieced together. Finally, the puzzle was complete. All evidence pointed to one man, Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer. DeAngelo had lived quietly in Citrus Heights, California, seemingly blending into suburban life. But when investigators collected his DNA from a discarded tissue, it was a match. The Golden State Killer had been unmasked. The news sent shockwaves across the country. For the victims and their families, it was a moment of both relief and heartbreak. After decades of living with unanswered questions, they finally had closure. During the trial, many victims confronted DeAngelo, sharing their stories and reclaiming their voices. In August 2020, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring he would never harm anyone again. The case of the Golden State Killer is a testament to the power of persistence and innovation in the pursuit of justice. It reminds us that no matter how much time has passed, the truth has a way of coming to light. Stay with us as we unravel more cases that prove justice can prevail, even in the most horrifying circumstances. Our next case takes us to Japan in 1988, where the tragic story of Junko Purua shocked the nation and the world. Junko was a bright and cheerful 17-year-old high school student with a promising future. But her life was cut short in one of the most horrifying crimes ever recorded. Junko was abducted by 4 teenage boys, members of a local gang, and held captive for 44 days. During this time, she was subjected to unimaginable brutality, beaten, starved, and tortured in ways too graphic to fully describe. Her captors forced her to endure constant physical and emotional torment, and despite her repeated pleas for help, no one intervened. Even neighbors who heard her screams chose to look the other way. When Junko's body was discovered, encased in a concrete drum, the details of her ordeal sent shockwaves across Japan. The sheer cruelty of the crime left the nation reeling, and the public demanded justice. However, what followed only deepened the outrage. Because the perpetrators were minors, they received shockingly lenient sentences. The ringleader, who had orchestrated much of the torture, was sentenced to just 20 years in prison, while the others received even lighter punishments. The public outcry was immense. People across Japan called for harsher penalties for juvenile offenders, arguing that such horrific acts demanded more severe consequences. Over time, Junko's case became a symbol of the flaws in the legal system, sparking debates about justice and accountability. Her story was revisited in documentaries, books, and films, ensuring that her memory would not be forgotten. Junko's tragic death left a lasting impact, not only on her family but on society as a whole. Her story has become a rallying cry for victims' rights and a reminder of the need for vigilance in protecting the vulnerable. It's a painful chapter in Japan's history, but one that continues to serve as a stark warning about the consequences of inaction. Junko Purua's case raises difficult questions about justice and accountability. Do you think the sentences given to her attackers were fair, or should they have faced harsher punishments? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. In 2002, a nightmare began for three young women in Cleveland, Ohio. Ariel Castro, a seemingly ordinary school bus driver, kidnapped Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus, holding them captive in his home for over a decade. To the outside world, Castro appeared unremarkable, but behind closed doors, his house became a prison of unimaginable horror. Michelle Knight was the first to be abducted in August 2002, followed by Amanda Berry in 2003 and Gina De Jesus in 2004. All three women endured years of abuse, starvation, and physical and emotional torment. Castro manipulated and controlled every aspect of their lives, even forcing Amanda Berry to give birth to his child under these harrowing conditions. Despite living just miles from their families, they were completely cut off from the outside world. But in May 2013, after 11 years in captivity, a miracle happened. Amanda Berry managed to escape with the help of a neighbor, Charles Ramsey, who heard her screams and helped her break through a door to freedom. Berry's frantic 911 call led police to Castro's home, where they discovered Michelle Knight and Gina De Jesus alive. The rescue stunned the nation and brought an end to a saga of unimaginable suffering. Ariel Castro was arrested and charged with over 900 counts, including kidnapping, rape, and aggravated murder. During his trial, he showed little remorse, claiming that his actions were the result of a sex addiction, a statement that only deepened the outrage against him. In August 2013, Castro was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years without the possibility of parole. However, just 1 month into his sentence, he was found dead in his cell, having taken his own life. The story of the Cleveland kidnappings is not just one of horror but also one of resilience. Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus have shown incredible strength in rebuilding their lives. Each of them has written books, shared their stories, and become advocates for missing persons, turning their pain into a source of hope for others. Their courage serves as a powerful reminder of the human spirit's ability to endure and overcome even the darkest of circumstances. The Cleveland kidnappings shocked the world, but the bravery of these women has left an indelible mark. Their survival is a testament to their strength, and their escape remains a story of triumph against all odds. For nearly 3 decades, the BTK Killer terrorized Wichita, Kansas, leaving a trail of fear and devastation in his wake. BTK, short for bind, torture, kill, was the chilling signature of Dennis Rader, a man who led a double life. By day, he was a seemingly ordinary family man and church leader. By night, he was a cold-blooded murderer who claimed the lives of 10 victims between 1974 and 1991. Rader's reign of terror began in 1974 with the brutal murder of the Otero family, including 2 young children. Over the years, he targeted individuals and couples, meticulously planning his crimes and leaving behind taunting clues for law enforcement. What made him even more terrifying was his need for recognition. He sent letters to the media and police, detailing his crimes and mocking their inability to catch him. His ability to blend into society while committing such heinous acts made him one of the most elusive killers in American history. For decades, investigators struggled to identify the BTK Killer. Rader was careful, leaving behind minimal evidence at his crime scenes. Advances in forensic science, including DNA testing, came too late for many of the early cases. Despite his letters and the public's growing fear, Rader disappeared from the spotlight in 1991, seemingly vanishing without a trace. But in 2004, after more than a decade of silence, BTK resurfaced. Rader began sending letters again, reigniting the investigation. His need for attention ultimately became his undoing. In one of his communications, he asked police if they could trace information from a floppy disk. Investigators, of course, assured him they couldn't, a lie that would seal his fate. When Rader sent the disk, metadata embedded in the files led police to the computer at his church, directly linking him to the crimes. In February 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested at his home. The man who had eluded capture for decades was finally unmasked. During his interrogation, Rader chillingly described his crimes in detail, showing no remorse. In court, he pleaded guilty to all 10 murders, providing graphic accounts of how he carried them out. His cold, detached demeanor shocked even seasoned investigators. In August 2005, Rader was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He now spends his days in solitary confinement, a far cry from the control he once wielded over his victims. The case of the BTK Killer serves as a stark reminder that even the most careful criminals can make mistakes, and when they do, justice has a chance to prevail. Rader's capture brought long-awaited closure to the families of his victims and to a community that had lived in fear for decades. His story is one of horror but also of the determination of law enforcement to bring even the most elusive killers to justice. Our final case takes us to Modesto, California, in December 2002, when 27-year-old Lacy Peterson, 8 months pregnant with her first child, vanished without a trace. Lacy's disappearance sparked a massive search effort and an unprecedented media frenzy. Her radiant smile and the heartbreaking circumstances of her pregnancy made her story a national obsession, with millions following every development in the case. As the search for Lacy intensified, her husband, Scott Peterson, quickly came under scrutiny. While he initially appeared to be a grieving husband, cracks in his story began to show. Scott's demeanor was often described as cold and detached, even as the nation rallied behind Lacy's family. Suspicion deepened when it was revealed that Scott had been having an affair with a woman named Amber Frey, who came forward to the police, claiming Scott had told her he was a widower, before Lacy had even disappeared. In April 2003, 4 months after Lacy's disappearance, the case took a grim turn. The remains of a woman and a male fetus were discovered on the shores of San Francisco Bay, near where Scott had claimed to have gone fishing on the day Lacy disappeared. DNA testing confirmed the remains were Lacy and her unborn son, Connor. The discovery solidified the case against Scott, as investigators had already found evidence linking him to the crime. Concrete anchors, which Scott admitted to making, were suspected of being used to weigh Lacy's body down in the water, though none were ever recovered. Scott Peterson was arrested shortly after the discovery of the remains. During his trial, prosecutors painted a damning picture of a man who saw his pregnant wife as an obstacle to his freedom. They argued that Scott killed Lacy to pursue a life with his mistress, Amber Frey. The jury agreed. In November 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for Lacy's death and second-degree murder for the death of their unborn son. He was sentenced to death and remains on death row to this day, though his sentence was later reduced to life without parole after appeals. The murder of Lacy Peterson became one of the most high-profile cases in American history, capturing the public's attention and sparking debates about the media's role in influencing public opinion. It also highlighted the devastating effects of domestic violence, even in relationships that seemed picture-perfect from the outside. For Lacy's family, the conviction brought some measure of closure, but the loss of Lacy and Connor left a void that can never be filled. Lacy's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly lives can be shattered by violence and betrayal. But it's also a testament to the tireless efforts of investigators and the power of justice to bring answers to those left behind. What do you think about Scott Peterson's conviction? Do you believe justice was served, or do you think there's more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As we've seen today, justice can take years, even decades, but perseverance, advancements in technology, and the determination of investigators can bring answers to even the most horrifying cases. Each of these stories serves as a powerful reminder that no matter how dark the truth may be, it's essential to uncover it for the sake of the victims and their loved ones. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these cases shocked you the most? Was it the decades-long hunt for the Golden State Killer, the unimaginable ordeal of Junko Purua, the resilience of the Cleveland kidnapping survivors, the chilling methods of the BTK Killer, or the heartbreaking betrayal in the Lacy Peterson case? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts and insights are what make this community so special. And remember, the best comment with the most reactions will be pinned, so don't hold back. Share your thoughts, theories, and reactions with us. If you found this video compelling, give it a like and share it with others who are as fascinated by true crime as you are. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into chilling mysteries and solved cases. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with more gripping stories that prove the truth is often stranger and scarier than fiction. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and we'll catch you in the next one.